way cash crisis works. Talking about Venezuela once again.
Systemic important banks. They removed the 1,000 and doing this thing on here called monetary awareness.
All right. We are live for a little midday news check-in, and wanted to just check in real quick. Actually, testing out some new software here, trying to see if things can flow smoothly. Having too many interruptions on the other software I'm using here. So I want to just take a minute, check in, see what's going on, and more importantly, share with you just some insight in reference to how we tend to measure value these days, and how I believe that current model for measuring things using currencies, fiat currencies in particular, is it's going to be an outdated model. And so I want to share with you some graphs that I came across, all tied to just having come across some information in regards to the DXY or the dollar index, and how I think that can be very misleading, because a lot of people use that for a tool and a measuring stick, I guess, because we have the world reserve currency. But then again, as all that stuff kind of shifts a little bit, I think gold, of course, is going to become more of a equalizer in this race for stabilization and trust in the financial system. So I want to share with you some ideas there. But before I do such, let me make sure everything is flowing on my side here. Let me make sure everything is flowing, so I'm not just talking to myself. And if you guys can hear me, let me know in the chat if I am streaming, so that we can make sure this is flowing smoothly. Give me 1 second here. Let me adjust some things on the back end in hopes of everything working itself out. And then I should be good to go. And I'll get into some of the details of what I want to talk about, just because I think it's very important, especially with gold price action in USD terms being the last of the fiat currencies to, I guess, truly reveal itself in reference to how the current monetary reshaping is taking place, to where confidence in fiat is dwindling faster and faster. And so I want to give you another angle or viewpoint to look at it. So let me get some things done on the back end here, and hopefully I should be good to go. And I want to make sure I hopefully can see some comments, but it won't be long. And I'm going to attempt to log in tonight and get some things going. All right, so let me see here. Let me see if this thing is actually working, because I don't see any comments. I want to make sure I'm not talking to myself. So bear with me, people, and I'll get to the nuts and bolts of what I was attempting to do. Silver up, you are good. Don't touch anything. Okay. Okay, so I got to look at a different screen because it looks like the comments aren't present. But okay, anyway, so as I mentioned, I want to check in for a quick minute, share with you some things that caught my attention in regards to, let me get back here, in regards to this graph here. Let me bring this up on screen. All right, this is in regards to the US dollar index of the DXY. And so other day when I streamed for a quick little midday news check-in, the DXY came up in the comments. And so I'm like, okay, today, as of right now, as we speak, market's going to close pretty soon, and the DXY is up. But then again, I'm thinking like, okay, the DXY is important when it comes to international commerce and trade, because that's how we do imports, exports. When you look at the world, or the world uses the index to measure and gauge the exchange rates of their currencies for trade. But on a day-to-day basis for you and I, as far as what we have in our pockets, i.e. our digital dollar representations and the paper notes we have, it doesn't really impact us directly, because we don't get more or less purchasing power immediately based upon this number on the screen here. And so what this number really signifies is that it's the world's confidence and their need to make sure that their trade weighted balance is sufficient for them. Because when this goes up, their currencies go down, and vice versa. But at the end of the day, they're all fiat currencies. And when you use the USD, aka the dollar, Federal Reserve note, as this international standard of measurement, then we can have these fluctuations of, good days, bad days, economy's going well, yada, yada, yada. But as we get further into this decade here, the USD will not be the primary medium of exchange to weight or to measure value in the international scene, in my opinion. And I think gold will definitely play more of a, as I mentioned earlier, an equalizer in this matter. So what do I mean by that? I wanted to actually look at the fiat value of the currencies listed in this trade weighted basket on top of the dollar and do the inverse, because right now what we've been witnessing over the last year, for the most part, gold priced or measured in fiat terms continuing to go up in a lot of currencies. The USD was the last one that really got any attention, but it's starting to get some attention now because the dollar, or I'm sorry, gold priced in USD terms is above 2,000 right now. And so I think it's going to be a definite turning point. Let me actually switch screens here. Let me get back here. So let me just check and see what gold is priced at right now. So as of right now, let me switch screens here. Bear with me. Hopefully everything pans out. So as of right now, as I'm talking, gold is 2,035 Federal Reserve notes. And so it's down 8.9% just within today alone. Okay, $2,000 is not enough to brag home about. It's not really nothing. Oh, the fiat currency is being destroyed. No, but you can see a much different perspective when you look at this same action on the reverse or the inverse of things. And that's what I'm going to do today, just to show you how poorly fiat currencies have performed if measured in something other than, or in measured in something of true value, internationally speaking, which is what I call the stabilizer, the equalizer, which is gold, because it is historically money. And apparently from all the activity happening in the world with central banks, it's going back to that. So I want to share with you some interesting charts here and show you how all fiat is failing in real time and at a very alarming rate. And the USD is the last of the bunch, but it's also failing. So using the DXY as well as fiat for any standard moving forward in this decade is going to be very bad for people. So the whole point is change your perspective and your paradigm on how you measure value in reference to purchasing power, in reference to storage of value, things of that nature, because it's going to change exponentially. But anyway, without being long-winded, let me make sure I am okay. Let me know if sound is working good. So I want to make sure I'm not talking to myself. All right, I don't want to be long-winded, but so I came across this chart here. So I'm like, okay, let me get on the screen here. So I'm like, let me go ahead and just talk about this a little bit, share my perspective on it from a monetary literacy, monetary enthusiast viewpoint, and then go from there. So for those who are plugged in, if you haven't, hit that thumbs up button, show your support for the channel. And also, this is completely off topic, but I want to try to do more of these off the cuffs, type of live streams and sharing thoughts as they come across my mind. But for those who might be interested, I want to just, plug a video I did earlier in reference to what I consider the whole world currency debate, well, not debate, but just a viewpoint. And so in this video here, I posted it on the Rumble, Rethinking the Dollar Rumble page. And this is a glimpse into my worldview on where we're at and where things are heading in reference to those natural and spiritual things I talk about, or have talked about before. And I went a little bit more in depth in this video here. And so I'll put this on a different channel just because most people may not be interested in this type of information. But then again, I consider it real talk. So put it on Rumble. So if you guys want to check it out, feel free to have at it. And you can get a better glimpse into my mind these days. But okay, let's jump right into it. All right. So some people, of course, majority of people who tuned into the channel, what's happening. But I thought I would just, for the sake of clarification's sake and land a foundation into what I'm getting into, to give you some keywords, some definitions as to this whole US dollar index, which I think in this decade will not carry the same amount of weight as it has over the last, 80, 90 years or since Bretton Woods, basically. Okay, real quick, I'm going to thumb through some things here, give you my perspective, and then we'll get into some charts. I'm going to show you some graphs so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so what is it saying? US dollar index, or the DXY, is an index of value of the United States Federal Reserve note. I put that in for myself. I say, so that's a Federal Reserve note, because all dollars are not created equal, as I mentioned before, relative to a basket of foreign currencies, often referred to as a basket of U.S. trade partners' currencies. The index goes up when the U.S. dollar gains strength and when or value when compared to other currencies. So it's just a measurement of different currencies. So here you have some of the key currencies in this trade-weighted basket. And the most recent addition is the Chinese renminbi, which has a very, very, very small, insignificant weight. So it's not even mentioned here. But then you go down further. Let me get on here real quick. It gives you the trade-weighted USD index, which is something that is newer. So it says the trade-weighted US index created by the Federal Reserve to measure exchange rate of the United States dollar compared to nations that trade with the most. The more trade a country has, the United States, the more the exchange rate weighs on the index. So this is a different level of index, but it has to do with these direct partners here. We got Britain, China, Euro, Mexico, Canadian dollar, Japanese, South Korean yen. Okay, whatever. Okay, so this was created here. This trade weighted index was created in 1998, right around the same time that the euro came into existence. So these are the trade weighted currencies that are used to do business on an international scene when it comes to imports and exports, which is very important because it is the backbone to the global economy. Goods and services being exchanged in different currencies as the mediary of that exchange. And so, of course, ever since gold was removed from the equation, we went on to a solely fiat standard. Therefore, everything has been measured in fiat terms. And because USD is a reserve currency, everything is measured in USD. No matter where you go in the world, you look on the shelf, it's going to say some type of USD exchange rate price for that item. I believe within this decade more, there's going to be more options out there. So that's why I'm talking about this. Okay, so with that being mentioned, let's get into what I want to talk about. And let me share with you some interesting perspectives here. And so this is the xe.com website here. And today my categories for measuring the exchange value, as you guys can see here, is USD measured against XAU or gold. And so I did different time periods here to give you an idea as to how poorly the Federal Reserve note, aka the dollar, is performing if you measure it in gold. So if gold is the standard, and then you take that standard and then you price it in failing fiat currencies, this is the trend you get. Just like on average, majority of people tend to use USD as a measurement of or standard, and then they price everything else in that particular standard. So those are two different mediums of standardization. One is failing bad. The other one is benefiting greatly. And I'm about to explain that. But it's happening in all currencies at a very fast and alarming rate. Okay. So before I get to more on the USD, let's look at some of those currencies that I referenced in the DXY or the trade weighted basket. So let me go back here. Give me 1 second here. Let me give me 1 second here. Let me get some things on the back end straight. And hopefully this live stream turns out well, given the fact that I mentioned I'm doing something new with the some software here. So I'm trying to experiment with this software here and see if it works. So give me 1 second here. I want to make sure everything is showing up on my side here. And then we'll get into the nitty gritty. All right, let me close some windows here. Hope everyone's doing well. Let me refresh my screen, make sure everything is still running smooth. Okay, for those who are plugging in, let me know in the chat if you guys are hearing me very well or at all. And as I'm trying to get some things going here, so I may not be able to fix that. Okay, but anyway, I don't want to keep you guys long. So let's get into some of those currencies, those different currencies that I referred to, and how, if they were measured against gold, how are they performing? So let's go back here, and we're going to look at the different. So let me just look at. I'll look at the trade weighted USD index, which has more currencies in it. And so if you look at the South Korean won, and so you got the won. Let's look at the won. So let me go back over here. I'm going to look at all these currencies as fast as I can and let you guys see what I'm referring to when you reverse that. So here we got the South Korean won. This is the won. So this is a inverted chart showing the price or the value of the won measured in gold. Now, what we're used to looking at on, or most people talk about, is the primary viewpoint of you take gold and then you price it in the fiat currency, which, if you would do it from that measure here, as you can see, gold has increased relatively significantly over the last year. And so that's another indication that gold has been performing quite well in the yuan. It's up 14% in just, a 1 year period. Now, if we invert that to where we have the measuring stick as gold priced in fiat, the yuan itself has lost 12.43% against gold as the standard. And if you zoom out over 2 years, the fiat version of the yuan is down 20%. Okay, that's bad. If you go out 5 years, the South Korean won fiat version, the version that comes from their central bank, if measured against the true standard of value, aka gold, it's down 48%. And if you go out 10 years, it's down 51%. So different viewpoint, same items, different paradigm on how you're looking at it. Okay, this is a South Korean won. So just look at these numbers here. So we end off with 51% over the last 10 years. So if a person had purchased a much sounder standard, i.e. an ounce of gold, when it was a lot cheaper in fiat terms, they would be in a much better predicament as far as having absorbed and retained their energy, their skill set, their time, as well as everything else that we use money to determine value of. Okay. So let me keep going. I want to get to more of these. So let me go ahead and grab a different. Give me 1 second. Let me grab a. Okay, so the whole time I'm talking and I'm not showing you guys. So forgive me. Let me go back here. So I'll get better with this. But this is the chart I was when I was talking. This is what I was trying to show. But I got to go back and forth and switch things up. So for those who are paying attention, I just did simply this. Let me see what I did. So I did 1 year. It's 12%, meaning gold is a standard measured in paper, dying paper. The dying paper was down 12%. The dying paper was down 20% in year 2. And the dying paper was down 48% year 5. And year 10, the dying paper was down 51%. This is what I'm getting at. Okay, so let's go to the next currency. Just go to Japanese yen. So let me go up here. And the reason I'm doing that is because not one of the reasons, but a couple other reasons is that a lot of people mention like gold is not performing. It's not performing. It depends on how you measure performance. So here we got the Japanese yen. We all know about the Japan situation and their crises, but Japanese yen, for a person who use a different standard of value and measurement and standard, this is what's the outcome of holding metals versus paper. Japanese yen, 1 year ago, if gold was a standard, and you measured it in fiat, it's failing, you've lost 19% of your fiat value in 1 year. In 2 years, you've lost 33% of your fiat value. If you go 5 years, you've lost 54% of your fiat value. And if you go out 10 years, you've lost 58% of the fiat value. And you factor in, what does that really equate to? That's purchasing power in the real world when you take your fiat into the store to buy things. That's how much harder it becomes to maintain the same level of living and everything else, and especially when it comes to actually the physical items that you cannot buy no more because fiat is failing in real time. That's the Japanese yen. But it doesn't stop there. Let me get let's go to another one. The Mexican peso. Let's look at the Mexican peso. The reason I'm looking at this one because this is in that little graph that I showed you guys. So Mexican peso. Let's go 1 year out. So 1 year out, and this is what's interesting. The Mexican peso obviously has been performing relatively decent against the USD, against gold rather, over the last year because it's down the least. So 1 year ago, 4.84%, meaning the peso is down, measured in gold terms, just 5%, not bad. 2 years, it's been up 7.4%, even better. So that means the peso, physical peso, strengthened against gold in Mexico, meaning possibly a little bit more purchasing power, depending on what you're buying. 5 years, now we go out a little bit. Gold has outperformed the central bank's version of the peso by 29%. So it's down. Paper is down 29%. Then you go out 10 years. The paper Mexican peso is down 54%. Tragedy. Okay. So you get my drift. I can go to every one of these, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to bore you guys with all this. And so let me go so with the British pound. So I don't want to go to all of these, but I did go through all of these, and it's very interesting that they're all in the same boat. And the very last one I'm gonna do will be the dollar, and I'm gonna throw out a little suggestion as to some things. Anyway, so here we got the British pound over 1 year. The fiat version is down, measured in gold terms, 9%. 2 years is down 17%, measured in gold terms. In 5 years, it's down 40%, measured in gold terms. And over 10 years, it's down 53% in gold terms. So meaning fiat failing faster, and over a longer period of time, you can see how it adds up. Okay, so just for the sake of time, I don't want to bore you guys. We're at 20 minutes, so let's get to the head honcho of them all. Let's get to the USD. This is the USD. This is the cleanest shirt out of the entire basket of filthy laundry. But since gold is money, it is a standard. It's becoming more popular amongst the commoners as far as those who don't pay attention to monetary policy and financial policy very often, because people are becoming more aware of the fact that they're losing out big time just holding on to fiat currency. So they're running to something more stable. And of course, silver and all the other metals will also perform the similar way, just because measured in a dying fiat currency, everything goes up. But as far as retaining and storing some of that value, that's where gold and silver comes in handy. Anyway, so here we got the USD. And so if gold itself was a standard and you use fiat to measure that standard, this is what you get. So the USD has been down in 1 year. Gold has strengthened against the Federal Reserve's liabilities, aka the Federal Reserve note. So I always go back to, pointing out this instrument here. So if this is your standard of value, this is what you use to measure value, you're automatically getting the short end of the stick. So you might want to swap this out and get another standard. And I don't have anything, but I do. It got me a little silver here. This is another great tool to use as a standard, like a measuring stick of value over the long term. So lastly here, 1 year, Federal Reserve note measured in gold is down 14%. 2 years is down 12%. 5 years, over the last 5 years, Federal Reserve note measured in gold is down 39.97%. And in 10 years, it's down 39.94%. And so out of the 3 or 4 currencies we did prior to now, if we were to measure this currency basket of failing fiat currencies as a standard in and of themselves, they're doing just fine. They're doing just fine. The Dixie strong, the yuan is down, Mexico peso is up. But if you look at it from the standpoint of gold being the standard, and then you take that standard you compare it or use other items to measure that value in, now you see that the fiat currencies are failing drastically. And out of all the 4 or 5 first currencies I showed you over a 10-year period, they're all down 40, 50% easily, meaning that's less purchasing power the people had if they solely depended on or relied upon the fiat versions of their nation's money supply. But if they got into something else, gold, silver, whatever else people speculate in, you would retain some and absorb some of that purchasing power. And so if the Federal Reserve note is no longer going to be the standard for our future, the world's future, as a reserve currency, it is now, it will be still needed, but in the future, everything changes. It won't be. Then what will people use? And that's where gold comes into the equation, silver and everything else in between. And so one of the things I wanted to hint at, let me see, grab this real quick here. And so I thought about this little imagery here. Let me bring this back up here. So looking at this chart here, if this is gold measured in fiat terms, so gold is the standard, and this is measured in fiat terms. Look at this image here and tell me just the shape and the structure of this, of the downward trajectory of the Federal Reserve note in reference to how much gold you can purchase over time and how it continues to go down. And it's going to go down. It can only go down because the currency is dying. So right now we're at 39%. And so the first image that came to my mind is, let me grab this here. This is the image that came to mind to give you a visual representation of how over time, depending on the item you're using as the measuring stick, when it comes from centrally controlled entities, aka central banks, in cahoots with governments that needs that currency to exist, you will only come out on a short end of the stick. And the current measuring stick here in this image is the dollar or Federal Reserve note. But over time, when you price your entire life in USD terms, you have gotten less, down to the point now where they're saying we're on 2%, 2 cents or 3 cents. But I believe we're already sub-zero, and I've explained that before, but you can't get anything for a single dollar without putting some tax on top or just it costing more than $1. So, really, what is the purchasing power that these images are referring to? I don't know. But point in case is, doesn't this image here look very similar to this image here? The overall structure of just the downward trajectory of purchasing power measured in that particular item. So, if I was to overlay the U.S. purchasing power of the USD or the Federal Reserve note over the purchasing power priced in gold terms, look at the similarities as far as the trajectory heading down. So, to summarize this in a real quick fashion, over time, fiat has failed. It has never been successful because it is a tool created by two entities that ultimately steals from you and I in real time. And it's picking up. That's a part of the reason why the world's running to gold and everything else, because there is nothing to be had or nothing to be preserved inside of fiat. So that's my little rendition on the whole fiat game. I just thought this was interesting because the whole Dixie, chart. But anyway, man, I've been ranting forever. Said change screen. I hope that I hope I wasn't talking to myself, but it looks like okay. So I did a good job changing the screen. So anyway, so I can't see the comments, unfortunately, inside this chat, inside this software here. It's new software. So hopefully anyway, but I just want to check in, share my 2 cents on that. Of course, I'm sure some people don't agree. Some people do. It's whatever. The numbers, speak for themselves. And so anyway, I hope everyone is doing well. I'm going to try to log back in tonight and do another live stream, and then we can get more feedback then. But if you guys found any value out of this discussion, hit that thumbs up button. And what's more important, rather than just hitting that button, hit the share button. Send this to somebody so they can get a different spin on what's happening here, because I think this information here from this perspective is in and of itself unique, and people can afford to hear some things that, contradicts the mainstream narrative, because this is stuff I didn't learn in school. This is stuff they don't teach in school. reversing, inversing charts, so you can see a different perspective of it in real time. So, all right, my good people, I enjoyed this. I hope you guys did as well. If you found value, share it, man. Put it out there. Let's get this stuff out here and hopefully get more people educated so they can get plugged in what's happening in real time, man. Because stuff is happening. And I got some other stories I want to touch on, but I'll be forever. This wasn't meant to be a long, drawn out live stream. I think I was long enough, but not more craziness coming our way, man. And that's all I'll say, but I'll leave it at that. Anyway, I'll catch you guys on the flip side, man. Thanks for joining me. Peace.